Suddenly the door to my room opened and Min Ho entered accompanied by a few associates. Kim Lee stood to greet her as she entered. "How are things going?" she asked. "Really well, I think," responded Kim Lee. "I was just reading the transcripts of the donor's journal to give him an idea of what type of man he was. It's funny, the more I read through it, the more I see the two of them have a lot in common." "It turns out," she replied, "they have more in common than you might think. Genetically speaking, they are nearly identical, which is why we thought this grand experiment might work. But our initial tests did not prepare us for how fast we have been able to blend the brain tissue between the two of them. We are totally in uncharted territory at this point." As I listened to the two converse, my mind was wandering back to the things that Kim Lee just read to me. It was like being lost in a good dream that is suddenly interrupted. I started to feel a true connection to the characters as if I had actually lived these events, and I began to wonder if I can ever get back to this point in the dream to see how it all ends. Turning my attention back to their conversation, I took notice that Min Ho seemed unusually animated and in good spirits. Her usual persona has been more cold and professional. This was a different side of her that I had not seen before. I began to wonder what was different, and although her physical appearance had not changed, for the first time I took notice of how attractive she was. Oddly, even though I knew she was unaware of my thoughts, I felt strangely embarrassed. Min Ho asked Kim Lee if he could step outside the room for a moment so she could discuss a few things with me regarding my progress. He nodded in agreement and left the room. Sitting down in the chair that is usually occupied by my friend Kim Lee, she began to speak in a more direct tone, but it seemed she was trying to connect on a more personal level. "It's been brought to my attention that my bedside manner is lacking. For this, I ask that you accept my deepest apology." She continued, "This procedure that you are about to undergo will be the first one of its kind. In fact, nothing even remotely like it has ever been attempted. We have a very dedicated team here that we have chosen from the best in their fields. Up until just a day ago I was feeling the pressure of years of research, the pressure of all my superiors putting the success of this experimental procedure solely on my shoulders. Not to mention the incredible cost of this venture without having any guaranteed results. This is just a one-shot deal and I have to get it right the first time. There will be no second chances. As you probably already know, we have kept the brain tissue from your donor alive by transplanting it into this large swine in the bed next to you. It has been kept warm and gets the oxygen and nutrients it needs to thrive. You may also notice that there are many tubes and wires connecting you two together. Our monitors indicate a connection of the neurocommunication between the two of you. Although you still won't be able to move, you may start to feel sensations. A pain or an itch, or you may start to taste or smell things you couldn't before. I wanted to be able to tell her about my heightened sense of smell and the empty feeling in the pit of my stomach, but I am still too incapacitated to offer any kind of response. It seems that your body is working hard to accept this change and is healing at an almost supernatural rate. Even with all the best medical equipment available, we are not able to explain this phenomenon. From a scientific standpoint, it doesn't make any sense. And yet the results of your progress are very easy to see. I wanted to tell you this because we thought it might take years for you to heal to a point where you could feel normal again. But our current projections based on the most recent data looks like a time frame of about 8 to 10 months. This may seem like good news, but it will present some challenges that will be difficult for you to overcome. As your body reconnects to your brain, you will suffer severe tremors and muscle spasms. This will require us to keep you restrained to the bed. I am sorry about this, but it is necessary to protect you from hurting yourself. And of even greater concern, there will be a lot of swelling in your brain tissue and your spinal fluid will not be able to cool your brain as it is designed to do. It will also reduce the blood flow to your brain, shutting down oxygen and nutrients. This will cause a condition known as vasospasms, which are incredibly painful and can bring on a stroke. If you suffer a stroke, it may cause irreparable damage to the remaining portion of your brain and there will be no chance for recovery. I just thought you should be aware of the risk you are facing and to be prepared for the next phase of your recovery. I promise you, we will do our very best to help you through this. I have been very focused on what it means to me if I fail. I have to start thinking about what it means to you if I succeed." She placed her hand on my shoulder and said, "I will see you soon." As she stood up, she raised her hand so Kim Lee could see her through the glass door and she motioned for him to come back into the room. As he entered, she asked him how far along in the journal transcripts were we. He held up a page showing her where we had left off. Turning back to me, she smiled and said, "You haven't even gotten to the good stuff yet. You are in for a real treat. Enjoy the rest of the story." And at that, she exited the room.